So people had been asking about alternating tenses within the same book, because obviously one choice that you can make is writing your whole book in the past tense, writing your whole book in the present tense, but then there is the question of alternating tenses and how do you do that and how do you think about that. So I wanted to showcase a few authors who have done that. Interestingly, the ones that I found were all coming of age. I don't think that that is uniquely the case that you need to write a coming of age book in order to alternate tenses or explicitly to be in the present tense. But I do think when people are writing their young life, there is an impulse to be in the present tense because of the visceral nature of the scenes that you're remembering and putting yourself there. So the first example that is pulled up on the screen here is Angela's Ashes. Of course, Frank McCourt is a master in alternating tenses, and if you want to do that with your book, please read Angela's Ashes. What he does, and I'm just going to show you here, is he puts these line breaks, these pretty hard line breaks, which in a lot of books you'll see separated with some little design dingbat. But in Frank McCourt's book, they're not there, but you certainly know that you are transitioning to another scene. So, he's talking about being at Philomena's house, the sisters and their husbands. This is before he was even born, by the way. This is early in the book, page 19. And he's talking about Angela, his mother, being at Philomena's house, and you can see their husbands ate and drank while Angela sat in a corner nursing the baby and crying. Philomena stuffed her mouth with bread and ham and rumbled at Angela. That's what you get for being such a fool. So, I can screenshot these and send them to you because I'm not going to take time to read the entire thing. But what I do want to show you is how he transitions then with the line break, and now it's past tense again. A year later, another child was born. Angela called him Malachi after his father and gave him a middle name, Gerard, after his father's brother. So Malachi is Frank's brother. The McNamara sisters said Angela was nothing but a rabbit and they wanted nothing to do with her till she came to her senses. Their husbands agreed, all past tense. Now look at the next one. I am in a playground on Classen Avenue in Brooklyn with my brother Malachi. I'm two, or sorry, he's two. I'm three. We're on the seesaw. Up, down, up, down. Malachi goes up. I get off. Malachi goes down. Seesaw hits the ground. He screams. His hand is on his mouth, and there's blood. So obviously, you can see it's in the present tense. And he does this throughout the book. And if you're looking, I mean, I had mentioned earlier to you all, I think that The Glass Castle does a beautiful job of showcasing someone growing up and that the voice gets more sophisticated as Jeanette Walls ages. Here with Frank McCourt, the same is true. His voice gets more sophisticated as he ages, but in the past tense ones, he's narrating from a distance. While in the present tense, of course, he's narrating in the actual experience itself. So it's just something to think about. And it's also something to think about for those of you who want to write about things that may have happened before you were born or before you were when you were too young to remember, because many people, of course, are integrating aspects of their story that happened, either at an age that they can't remember or in some cases prior to them actually being born. So let's look at Blackbird. Jennifer Locke's book, is a gorgeous coming of age story. It was a New York Times bestseller. I think it's from the early 2000s, but she starts in the present tense as well. The only house I'll ever call home is the one on Mary Street. Mary Street is in Carson City, Nevada, and Carson City is a flat valley to soft hills. Past the hills are the Sierra Nevada mountains. And she goes on to talk about all this stuff about Carson City, really establishing a strong sense of place. And then she goes into the second person here. When you come in the front door, there's three ways you can go. Straight ahead is the living room, right is the kitchen, and left is a long hallway to bedrooms and bathrooms. So, again, trying to show you the alternating, because look when she comes down to this paragraph where it says, there was a time when Mama walked just like everyone else, when she was only in bed at night, when she drove her car and talked on the telephone and had lots of ladies over for card games. So, and then she transitions back. In the morning, I sit outside her door and listen. That's the rule. So this is an example of some facility of toggling back and forth between past and present, which some people want to do. And the important thing about present, past tense, and especially if you want to toggle, is being in control, because I see people who just are off the rails with their tenses, and that they are, maybe they're not paying attention, or maybe they don't really have command of tense. So you have a lot of flexibility here, a lot of possibility, but you have to understand tense if you're going to toggle. Otherwise, I would really highly recommend you stay in one lane. And the other thing is that I've recommended in the past to write an entire scene in the past tense and then write that same scene in the present tense, just to see how different it feels. Okay, and then one final example today is Lit by Mary Carr. Uh, she actually loves to be in the present tense. Sometimes she does sort of jump out of scene for the sake of explaining things. Not what I actually recommend to newer memoirists, but Mary Carr is Mary Carr, and she does it very beautifully, of course. So this is the very beginning of the book. She says, "At the end of my drinking, the kingdom I longed for, slaved for, and at the end of each day lunged at, was a rickety slab of unreal estate, about 4 foot square, a back stair landing off my colonial outside Cambridge, Mass. I'd sit hunched against the door, guzzling whiskey and smoking Marlboros, while wires from a tinny Walkman piped blues into my head." So here she's sort of setting the scene of her alcoholism. And she says, "I was empress of that small kingdom. I thought things were in that spot, so they were." And then this paragraph says, "That's a good starting point. The red pinpoint eye." Here she is in the present tense, right? "If I squint inward at it and untether my head from the present, time stops. I close my eyes. From that center dot, I can dive into the red past again, re-enter it, blink. The old porch blooms around me like a stage set sliding into place, every gray industrial board." So Mary Carr here is, I want to say, conjuring, hearkening, sort of a present omniscient narrator into this space. And again, if you want to do this, please just be mindful. It can be jarring, and my concern is that newer memoirists make this clunky. But if you practice it and you want to kind of turn things over in your mind and get into the realm of ideas, and you want to talk about how things are, as opposed to how they were, or, a continuous a continuous way of talking about things, it might necessitate you moving into the present tense. So my advice is just to read as much as you can. If you want to toggle and you want to try both, maybe read all 3 of these books or parts of them to see how they feel. Practice switching between tenses, and just don't allow yourself to be mindless about tenses, because I think, again, that's sometimes what happens, where I read people's work and I realize that they don't realize that they're switching back and forth within the same scene. So command is everything. I wish you luck with this. It's a good endeavor if you want to do it, but it is equally beautiful to stay in past or to stay in present. So have fun with it and have a good writing session today, everyone. Thank you.